Carr. Thank you so much for joining me here on this edition of At the Mic. I'm your host Keith Malinak with the Thursday deep dive, and I've tried to go with some proper ambiance because we're going to be ghost hunting with Tom Carr here in just a moment. But actually, on the way home today, I stopped by the dollar store and I got me this candle. Now, knowing my luck, I'll probably set fire to my entire house during today's conversation, but hopefully not. Anyway, so I just thought it was good. So if we're talking ghosts, gotta have a candle, right? Anyway, and now of course it's so dark I can't even see what's in front of me, but we'll make this work. Okay, so we'll get to Tom Carr in just a moment. I do want to remind y'all that tomorrow, 24 hours from now, 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do the Friday live stream with my guests, Tim Young and Alex Spencer. Love those two. And it's going to be a lot of fun having them hang out with us. And then what do we got coming up? A week from now on the Thursday Deep Dive, we're going to talk weather modification. Is it happening? Or to what degree is it happening? And it's gonna be interesting because we're gonna have an hour of a guest. Tori says is going to talk to us about weather modification and how it's completely being manipulated in her opinion. And then the next hour, it's going to be Joe Bastardi, a meteorologist that I'm sure many of you are familiar with as well. And he will say it's absolutely not happening. So I'm looking forward to that. By the way, this is it's cotton in tobacco scented candle, and I'm starting to really, so I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to take that. So anyway, it's kind of strong. Okay, so before we get going into our topic today, ghost hunting with Tom Carr, I'm so excited to chat with him. I want to go over just a few quick headlines if I could. Some sad news just broke. Donald Sutherland passed away at the age of 88. Just a tremendous actor. My goodness. Most recently, what I'm familiar with is his role as President Snow on Hunger Games. So it's Kiefer Sutherland's dad, and just an amazing actor. He just passed away at 88, and that just, man, I just hate it when somebody that you just really enriches your life, leaves us. And so Donald Sutherland passes away at 88. I do have some headlines, just real quick, just some interesting stuff. I thought that what perfect place other than this At the Mic deep dive for some of these stories. Where did you see where scholars have deciphered an ancient papyrus fragment that they believe contains the earliest account of Jesus's childhood? How cool is this? So for decades, they had this artifact, this scrap of paper at a university in Hamburg, Germany, and they were like, it's probably like a grocery store list or something like that. I mean, they didn't even bother to it's like, you've had this thing for decades. Get around to it already. And somebody noticed that, oh, wait a minute, this says Jesus on it. And then they started translating it. It doesn't say milk and eggs. Anyway, so they finally realized that, oh my gosh, this was probably written in the 4th or 5th century. And like I said, they just ignored it for decades. However long they've had this. I don't know when they first got it in their collection, but it just said, for decades, it sat unnoticed at the university library. I'm like, what are you doing there? Okay. And another biblical era piece of history. Researchers in Jerusalem uncovered an ancient military base that may provide clues of a battleground for God's army against Assyrian soldiers who came to conquer the Holy Land around 2,700 years ago. This article appeared in the Daily Mail. So as the Bible story goes, an angel of the Lord is said to have descended on the invading troops and killed 185 soldiers in a night. And the Bible is a history book. It truly is. And when stuff like this pops up in the news to confirm it, it's just like, it's so gratifying to see this stuff. But they have research archaeologists. What was this guy's name? Anyway, let's see. Stephen Compton. Okay, so Stephen Compton says it appears to be the site of Sennacherib's camp from the siege of Jerusalem, which was featured in 3 books of the Bible. Exactly, because it's a history book. And so that has just been discovered. And also, have you noticed how frequently we are seeing stories about MH370, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370? It's almost like Ashton Forbes was getting too close to the truth. So then they're like, no, we found it in a jungle in Asia. Oh, wait, no, we found some sign of it over here. Anyway, the latest on that is researchers in the UK. They're like, hey, we went and we found some audio because they have these listening stations to enforce the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. And so there's a listening station in Australia and Diego Garcia. Anyway, they went back. I don't know why you wouldn't think to do this 10 years ago when the plane goes missing. And they're like, okay, we found the location here. We've cross-referenced it and boom, it's here. So I guess they think they're getting close to finding where it went down. Sure they are. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. Yeah. I don't know, man. If you haven't seen the Ashton Forbes conversation we've had here on At the Mic, please, you can find it there in the library. One last thing here for you. Ludwig von Beethoven, he had jaundice. His limbs and abdomen were swollen. He was deaf, if you'll recall. I mean, a musician going deaf. How ironic is that? In his mid-40s, I believe, is when that happened. And he died at 56. So he spent quite a while not even being able to hear. The tinnitus in his 20s led to that. Well, anyhow, they weren't really sure what was going on with him, and they have a lock of hair that they've tested, and they're like, "Oh snap, dude had hepatitis B, and apparently liver disease and all sorts of stuff." Anyway, I tell you, I can't imagine being a musician and then not even being able to hear what you're doing. I want to bring in Tom Carr. He is the author of Talking to Yourself in the Dark. He is a ghost hunter. I love this guy. Before we go any further, is there a way to seek out Beethoven, his ghost?
Yeah, I just lost my voice, Keith. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Here, because this is supposed to be the third guest. But you're actually the first guest because the first two had issues come up at the last minute. And so I told you to watch your back all week. Be careful out there.
You know what? I drove to work in a tank, got myself a couple F-15s to guide me, hired some Marines today to kind of guard me throughout the day to make sure I would be safe.
And that's how important this was to you.
This is how important it was to me. And as far as getting a hold of Beethoven, here's the question. So if he's deaf, how do we ask him questions so he can hear them?
That's fair. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So learn sign language. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That actually brings up really good a quick segue. Nothing drives me more insane than when I've watched some of these TV shows and they're sitting over in the middle of France in some castle that was built in like 100 AD, and they're talking modern English, trying to talk to a ghost that was haunting this building 2,000 years ago. Like, dude, can you I don't know, talk to me? I'm just sitting here thinking, why aren't you talking in Latin?
See, you need to stop. You need to stop wanting historical accuracy in your entertainment. That's the problem, Tom.
And that is exactly what it is.
So introduce yourself here to the At the Mic audience and talk to us kind of about, I guess, your background. Is ghost hunting your hobby? I know you're a history major. Did your love of history get you into this realm of ghost hunting, or talk to us about how you got there?
It was chicks. It was girls. Totally girls that got me into ghost hunting. So I'll share my first ghost hunting experience.
Okay.
Me and two of my buddies were in a basement with some girls, and we were playing Clue. And Clue wasn't going so well, trying to find the mysteries of life, the universe, and everything with girls. And my buddy Mike happened to live right next door to a cemetery in West Jordan, Utah. I grew up in Utah. And we thought, hey, it's like end of September, 1st of October. Let's take the girls over to the cemetery. Maybe we can scare the girls and Clue will go a little bit better. The 16-year-old kids, 1987. Mm-hmm. So we go wandering through the cemetery, and the three of us are probably scaring the crap out of each other more than the girls. And I'm sure the girls at some point were just kind of like, I'm done with this. But as we're walking along going boo and ah and scaring the crap out of each other, something flew in front of us. And it was probably a piece of trash or garbage bag, something. But the three guys screamed bloody murder, turned around and left the girls in the cemetery and ran into the basement.
Oh, how chivalrous of you.
Needless to say, Clue was over for the night. But we got down in the basement and me and my buddy Mike were like, that was awesome. We got to do that again. No idea what we were doing. I mean, 1987, really the only things that talked about ghost hunting was In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. Let's see.
That was a year after Ghostbusters came out.
Yeah, Ghostbusters, Unsolved Mystery. That's Incredible. Talked about it occasionally, but it wasn't really something that was mainstream, you know. And we had Ghostbusters, and that was really cool. So my buddy Mike and I, we just started wandering through cemeteries in the middle of the night, no idea what we were doing, trying to scare each other. And I want to say it was probably about 3 months later. My buddy Mike comes running up to me. He's like, Tom, come here. We got to go to the library. We go to the library in our high school. And he drags me into this high school. And in the very back far corner, up on the top shelf, there's like a little tiny section that says occult and folklore. And he pulls down a book, and in it said it was a book called Phone Calls from the Dead. And it's basically a professor and a paranormal investigator who wrote a book where they talk about people that received phone calls and telegrams and things like that from loved ones that had died. And in one of the chapters, they talked about how you could record ghost voice. And we're like, what? You can record ghosts talking to you? And they had used this reel-to-reel tape recorder. Now, for you young folks, a reel-to-reel is this little tape thing, and it looped around, but it was huge. It probably took 800D batteries to power. It was designed for bird song. We bought one. At this point, we had drugged my buddy Eric in with us because he drove and neither one of us had a car. And we went back.
I remember friends like that.
Yeah, exactly.
They were your lifeblood to freedom.
We'll give you like $5 to fill up your tank if you go with us. And we played rock, paper, scissors to see who would carry this big recording device. And we went back to the very first cemetery that we went to. Eric lost, so he's carrying this big thing around. He had these straps on him, and he's holding the microphone. And we're walking around saying some of the dumbest things, like, "Are you there? Is there any ghosts here?" We had no idea what we were doing. And I don't know what brought it up, but Eric asked, "Hey, do they still bury people in the cemetery?" And Mike was like, "Yeah, I think they still bury people. I think there's one here tomorrow, as a matter of fact, or this weekend." Wow, few minutes go by, and all of a sudden we hear this a screaming, horrific sound. And we're like, "What's that? Eric? Eric?" We turn around. Eric's gone. He had stepped into the open grave that they had dug.
Oh, Eric, bro, that's me. I would have been your Eric friend.
So people walking over to the grave, and I had this giant mag flashlight, the beaten flashlights, and I'm shining, and I'm like, dude, ask some questions because you're like really close to all the dead bodies.
Oh my god!
And he's like, "Get me the hell out of here!" And I'm like, No, you got to ask questions first. So he fixed the reel-to-reel, and he raises it up and he says, "All right, is there anybody here?" And we pull him out, and we go back and we listen to the recording. And right after he says, "Is there anybody here?" we get our very first EVP, and it says, "Get out. You don't belong here."
Wait a minute. That seems like my cue here.
Do
I have
that?
No, okay.
That EVP.
Just so people know, Tom has set me up with so much audio, some video, pictures, and so just Tom, if you ever need anything, let me know, and I'll do my best to get it on the screen there. Anyway, continue. What's EVP, by the way? What's that stand for?
EVP is an electronic voice phenomenon. It's where we believe we've actually captured somebody speaking to us or responding to a question that we've asked.
Okay.
A really good example. Let's, if you want to, let's play I Can't See. This is probably the best EVP I have ever captured. You're actually going to hear me say, look out. You hear a bunch of women talking. I said, look out. And you're going to hear a voice says, "I can't see."
Right,
I am the only guy. Yeah, I'm the only guy in that room with 4 women.
Okay, interesting. Here we go.
Chair there. I can't see.
Very British sounding, right? I
Yeah.
can't see. Hang on, here
I
we
can't
go.
see.
Chair there. I can't see.
That is probably the clearest EVP I have ever captured in 34 years of ghost hunting. So,
Is that okay? So when you're doing this, is the microphone? How important is the equipment to capture? Does it need to be, like, are certain brands or certain sensitivities or
no,
whatever?
I originally started out with analog. I eventually went to digital just for the simple fact that it was, one, it's cheaper. 2, it's easier to analyze because we can just upload it. I like condenser mics. I've tried a couple of different types of mics and stuff like that, but the condenser mic is probably the best. Sorry, I'm kind of looking at some of the questions here, or chat as well.
Oh no, yeah, okay. Which, by the way, if you have questions here, we don't want to miss them. So we will get to a point where we just kind of, in other words, if you put it out there right now, we may not see it. So hang on to any questions you have, or anyway, we'll get to you. I promise you.
So yeah, so it doesn't really matter what you're using. I like to say it's not so much the equipment you're using, it's the tone that you use, the inflections that you use when you ask the questions. And if you
so don't be a jerk, is what you're saying, right? You don't want to roll up.
Or this is a standard thing. I've done a lot of ghost hunts. I've done some ghost tours where I've taken people on tours, or I've gone with other ghost hunters, and I've hear this. This is how they ask the questions. Is there anybody there? Can you tell me your name? And I'm literally falling asleep. Nobody's gonna respond. The way you ask the questions, the way you respond to them, the way you project yourself can actually make a big difference. And if you want, there's actually an EVP that makes fun of me. It's down below. It says Ogden 103, the tone I use. You're going to hear a voice say, it's the tone I use. He runs his mouth. I think they're actually making fun of me.
Okay, let's see. Here we go. The tone you use. Here we go.
I use. He runs his mouth. It's the tone I use. He runs his mouth.
That is nobody. Yeah, that's
okay, so
nobody. Go ahead.
So no. So at the beginning of this, is this you at the very beginning?
No.
Or that's so it's the tone I use is the quote from
somebody, just a random voice.
Tone I use. He runs his mouth.
What's the thing at the end of that? There's 2 voices, right?
It's something else that says he runs his mouth, and I think that was making fun of me.
He runs his mouth.
Oof.
I think it's making fun of me because I have joked that to get me to be quiet for more than 5 minutes is almost impossible.
So had you just said it's the tone I use, and it was almost like
I was
parroting
talking
back
to someone. Yeah. So now here's the other thing too. Now this is going to get into deep. I believe that sometimes they will mimic our voices. So they're using the sound waves that are projecting across, somehow manipulating the sound waves that we use to actually make their own voices, because they don't have vocal cords anymore. So what they're doing is they're actually somehow manipulating the energies or the powers that we use, the voice that we use. I'm probably not explaining it very well. But,
no, so I guess ghost hunting, I guess by definition, correct me if this is wrong, it's you're an investigator of the paranormal. You know, right? Because you're going into it just as an investigator. You have an open mind, but correct me if I'm wrong, you're just going in there to try to explain the unexplainable. Right? You don't have so when you started out, you just started at 0.0, I would imagine, right? Or did you start as a skeptic? Are you still a skeptic? Where are you now?
I'm on the fence. I'm still a skeptic. I'm very, very thorough on my investigation. I'm very, very if I play an EVP, it's been listened to by at least 5 or 6 people to get their opinion. And I've tried to figure out everything I possibly can. So there are 4 types of ghost hunters. And we all, in my opinion. So the very first type is a thrill seeker. They're going out there for the scare. That's all they want.
Okay.
Typically, I joke, talking to yourself in the dark, a how-to guide to the paranormal. That's what it is. You are walking around talking to yourself in the dark. Very rarely do you see something or have something happen that'll blow your mind. You can spend 6-8 hours in a place recording audio. You go home. Now, mind you, if we record 8 hours of audio, it's anywhere 2 to 3 times of analyzing that. So it can be 16 to 36 hours of listening to that audio, trying to see if we capture something.
And what would you say the percent? Like, let's just take an hour or something, right? Let's take an hour of an experience out there, hanging out in a building where you suspect. How much audio, if any? Like, what's a typical
in a 60-minute
return on investment?
Let's say a 60-minute audio, depending on where the location is. If it's somewhere that's supposedly pretty haunted, if you're doing these certain things, you're asking the questions correctly, you're giving time for the spirit to respond, and you're taking the time to listen to it, maybe 1, 2. I mean, I've gone to some places, spent 6 hours there and not gotten anything, and they're supposed to be some of the most haunted locations in the United States. I got to investigate the Winchester Mansion. I wandered through that place the entire night and not a single thing happened.
Really? Man.
Yeah.
I tell you, I've stayed at some hotels where I thought, I bet if you came back here with some recording equipment, because I've been on one ghost tour in my life. And so I kind of always flash back to that. Charleston, South Carolina is famous for ghost tours and stuff. And so there is the I should have looked these up. I didn't know I was going to talk about these. There's an old hotel in Broken Bow, Nebraska, and another one downtown. Cheyenne, Wyoming. I'm trying to think of what it's called. If you guys think about it. Anyway, and so I haven't looked up the Broken Bow one, but I just know because it's old. It just has that feel to it. The Cheyenne one, when you look online, it is considered one of the more haunted places in the country. And so my question to you is, are there specific places, like I've heard mental institutions, prisons, are those places, in your experience, more, more likely to have spirits and activity?
I believe they are. I mean, you got to think about it this way. Let's take a mental asylum. The abuse that goes on there, especially 60, 80 years ago. Going to an asylum was not a vacation.
Right.
It was not.
Sorry, I put a really long comment up there. Yeah.
No,
just Queen Bee talking about, she felt her dog there still for 6 months.
I have a funny story about
okay,
dogs.
So hold this thought, because I was going to actually combine this. I didn't mean to put it up so quickly there, but I was going to combine this with Carol Remarks. Why are there ghosts? Why don't they move on? So let's come back to these.
Let's go back to this. So yes, I think there are some places that can be more haunted than others, and their dark history, things like that could lead to it. So I was talking about the thrill seeker. The next thing is an actual ghost hunter. A ghost hunter is somebody who has moved past just the thrill and is kind of interested to why this place is being haunted. Okay, why are they being haunted? Can I find anything? And they'll take the time to use the equipment and figure some stuff out. The next is a paranormal investigator. Paranormal investigator is somebody who has a reason to go. Somebody comes to me and says, hey, I think my house is haunted. My kids are freaked out. Can you try to figure out if it's a ghost or if it's just my kids, whatever. So we go in there and we look for certain things. We use certain things. We take our time. Typically, a paranormal investigation is there's somebody who wants to know if it's haunted. Whereas a ghost hunt is, hey, it's haunted. Go see if you can find something. Nobody really cares if you get a response. The last, and this is where I'm at, is a paranormal researcher. I try new things. I try new experiments. I try to do different things. I try to ask questions a different way, different equipment, things like that to see if I can respond. I'll go to the same location multiple times, different times of the year to see if that has an effect. Full moon, new moon, certain days. If we have a history of a death on a certain day, would that day be more active than any other? You know, that's what a paranormal researcher is.
Okay, so thrill seeker, ghost hunter. What was 3 again?
Paranormal investigator.
Paranormal investigator, and then researcher.
And that's and then researcher. Yeah. So those are the 4 basic types of ghost hunters, and most people fall into the thrill seeker, somewhere between thrill seeker and ghost hunter.
Okay, and by the way, I just want to put that up. That was the Plains Hotel. Absolutely, I've been there a couple times, and that thing is creepy in Cheyenne.
So anyway. there is a hotel down in Cimarron, New Mexico that I went and investigated with my team at one point. We spent the entire weekend there, and I'm telling you what, it was definitely haunted. So I had this experience. I was upstairs, and there's a room in the hotel where one of the owners was shot in the back and died in that room. I'm upstairs by myself. I've got a little K2 meter with me.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what kind of
and a digital recorder. I'm sitting there, and I've got my tape recorder, and I'm asking questions. Did you know the person who killed you? Are you still here? And all of a sudden, out of my peripheral vision, I see something, and I turn and I look, and there is a half body. I can't see his legs. I can just see from the waist up. Walks in front of me. I can hear the spurs on his boots turning and spinning, and then he dissipates as he gets into the light. And all you hear me go is, huh. And I stand up and I walk downstairs. And I go downstairs, and somebody was downstairs in the kitchen trying to get a hold of the ghosts in the kitchen. I said, you're not going to believe what just happened to me. I just saw a ghost upstairs. They all go running out of the kitchen to go running upstairs. As they're running out, I see the same guy follow them out of the kitchen. And I'm just kind of, okay, yeah. So I like to say that there are a point, and I've reached this stage. The analogy I like to use with ghost hunters is, have you ever taken your car to a shop or a mechanic? Somebody who's been doing it for a long, long time. You pull into the shop before you even tell them what's wrong with the car. They walk up to you and go, yeah, the catalytic converter's out. You know, they can just tell by the sound of the engine. Mechanic.
Absolutely. Yep.
Paranormal investigators, some of them can get to a point where they walk into a building and they're getting those EVPs, the hairs on their neck. They're feeling things. They're kind of going, there's probably something here. Mm-hmm. So I've actually been like that. I've walked into a place and I went, yeah, we're going to get activity tonight.
Yeah, I bet. So I'm going to ask you, I'll get to my questions about your skepticism. But first, before we do that, I want to put this. First of all, thank you so much, Paranormal Triage, for your kind donation there. I want to ask you a question about this comment written here. My daughter and her daughter are both in my house, both tragic death, and I have her 3 kids. She protects them here. So let me ask you this. Let's just, for the sake of argument, say that ghosts are real. Okay. And that spirits, there's no question. Do they have something like mentioned here that is keeping them in a specific place? Going back to Carol's question, whereas, why are there ghosts? Why don't they just move on? Is it something specific that is keeping them in a spot?
So let's talk about the types of hauntings. So you have, they can break them down. You have a residual haunting. A residual haunting is, the way I like to explain it is, have you ever woken up in the morning? And I know, Keith, you get up at like 2:00 in the morning to go to work. You get up, you turn on the coffee machine, you get in the shower, you grab your coffee, you jump in your car, you get halfway to work, and you're kind of like, how the hell did I get this far? I mean, have you ever done that?
I hesitate to say this all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, wait a minute, where did I go? Yes.
So a residual haunting is an energy. You get people 80, 100 years ago, they started working at a place when they were 15, 16 years old, and they retired from that place. They worked there their entire life, probably doing the exact same job every single day, following the same path every single day. A residual haunting is just that. It's an energy that they've imprinted there. I can dive into a deeper theory that I have that it's actually not so much the energy, it's us actually crossing into their time zone, or they're crossing into our time zone. So
Okay.
our two timelines are crossing somehow. So
Have you
we're
seen-
actually seeing them from 100 years ago,
That's
and they're
interesting.
seeing us.
So
That's a residual.
are you familiar with the show Loki?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated with that show and the thought of different timelines.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have nothing of substance to add to this discussion. I want to say that up front. But just that whole, I guess, theory, that concept, I guess, is better. That whole concept of there being multiple timelines, and then you bringing up that actual word there to describe that, it makes it much more tangible.
I honestly believe that the one way scientifically we will ever prove that there is some sort of entity is through quantum physics. Because I'm a big fan of the TV show Quantum Leap, the original one.
Oh, such a great
And
show.
he talked about how timelines can cross, and it's just a giant ball. We can cross into each other's, and that's how he was jumping, is that it was from his birth to his death and his parents, and they're all those lines are crossing. I think that's possible. And I have a very good example of that. I actually got to investigate the Queen Mary. And there's a story of a ghost that's seen there walking down this hallway, and he turns into a wall. But at one point, there used to be a door there. Multiple people have seen this. They call him the captain or the sailor. I'm walking through there, and most people believe that that's a residual energy. It's just something that's just showing up every now and then. I'm walking through there, and I see him, and I go, holy shit, that was the captain. And he turned and he looked at me, dead face, right at me. And my theory is that it's not so much a residual, it's that we've actually crossed into their timeline. And maybe people from 100 years ago, when they see a ghost, they're actually seeing us.
So oh my goodness, that's an incredible theory. So you think that there's a podcast happening in 18 whatever?
Yeah,
you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, I just saw this guy. He wears this hat.
He's got glasses.
They have pictures of you.
Yeah, or maybe that's why you see some of those hieroglyphs of spaceships or astronauts.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. No, that's interesting. So I wonder if, and I do not know the answer to this.
Either do I.
Yeah. So I wonder if there are stories. I'm sure there are, right? From the 1800s or 1500s or whatever, where they saw somebody that looks like me. You know, okay, let's take you. You know, you're at a ghost thing, right? And you got this thing going, right? Exactly. You know. So I wonder if they have stories of, I saw this guy, he called himself Tom, and he was holding some weird thing up.
And it was lighting up.
Yeah, it was lighting up.
Who knows? Who knows? Because those things weren't recorded. Now, you got to realize, too, that in the occult and the paranormal and ghost hunting has been a fascination with people for as long as time has been around. The pharaohs were very curious about afterlife. They were very focused in on it. The occult was starting to get big again in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It led into Nazism, if you look into it. The occult in that spiritualism was very, very big. So who knows? That is my theory. I've talked to a lot of other ghost hunters who are kind of on the same timeline or kind of same opinion as I am, that maybe some of these things that we're crossing is actual just timelines, and that's what a residual. The next is actual ghost hunting, or a ghost, or what I call a visitation. So there could be a reason, who knows? I'll give a really good example of this. I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in a building called the Baron Woolen Mill in Brigham City, Utah. I had keys to the building. I was able to go in there whenever I wanted to. It was built in the late 1800s, ran until 1984, 85. We confirmed 4 deaths in the building, and a 5th death that was unconfirmed of a young woman who was brought into the building, raped and tortured over a week, and then killed. We believe her name was Mary. I believe that she was trapped there because she felt guilty for what happened. It happened at around 1900. So the stigma of her being raped and assaulted, to her, she felt guilty in a very prominent religious city. So she did not want to pass on because she was afraid she was going to be judged for what happened. So I think there are some ghosts that stay here for that. Unfinished business. We've heard that before.
Yeah, and I've got more questions than I'll ever be able to ask today, and most of
we need to do a second show sometime. Just
no kidding. So
I could go for hours, but yeah.
No, so okay. And by the way, as an aside, I once heard Scott Bakula. This is probably a decade, 15 years ago. Said that he would come back to do a movie. He wanted to do a movie to bring Quantum Leap back. And his mission is to try to stop 9/11 from happening. So I think that would, I've always thought, man, that would be awesome. Come on. Yeah. So we need to find this man on social media and just bombard him. Let's make it happen. Anyway.
Yeah, sadly, the new one was, they tried.
Oh, there was a new one that I completely missed?
Yeah, they actually they did a reboot. It lasted 2 seasons. And sadly, it was kind of woke.
Was Scott Bakula on it?
Woke. No.
Oh,
Scott was not involved. It was what's his name? The black guy from the Ghostbusters is in it.
Winston.
Winston. Yeah, he's one of the main characters. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh wow.
So they did 2 seasons, and
I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah,
so
I was a huge
messed up the franchise. Okay,
we can talk about Quantum Leap another day.
Right. Anyway, no, we got so many shows we can make out of this.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So let's
visitations or ghosts or an actual haunting itself.
So
is somebody who hasn't for one reason or other hasn't crossed over. Maybe they have unanswered questions, or every religion has some sort of afterlife holding pattern. You have purgatory. The LDS faith believes in spiritual heaven and spiritual prison. Spiritual heaven are for those that have accepted Christ and been baptized. Spiritual prison are for those that have not accepted Christ and are waiting to accept Christ. Because I'm LDS. We believe in baptism through proxy. So we believe that those people that are in spirit prison are waiting to have their baptisms done and accept Christ into their hearts and their minds. And then they move on to spiritual heaven or the spirit world. I know it's a religious thing. So, but I believe that those places are here on earth and they're separated by a thin veil in between the two. Now, I also just wondered that I'm glad you is a little different. Okay,
I'm glad you brought up your religion, your faith there, because it just seems like when you bring up the topic of ghosts in the realm of Christianity, there's some skepticism immediately. There's some pushback, and I just wonder, in your own faith, do the people in, and you said you're LDS, so do people in your ward or the elders, do they know about your hobby, and B, do you ever experience any pushback?
It has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. 1987, 1988. I can't count how many times I was called into my bishop's office and asked, "What are you doing?
Oh, no.
What are you doing?" Oh. I mean, I play Dungeons and Dragons, for heaven's sake. I mean, if you look behind me, I'm a giant geek.
Oh, okay? Let's see what we got. Yeah, okay.
yeah. I'm a giant geek. All right. And I got pulled in, and you did not walk around with a T-shirt that said Wasatch Paranormal Investigators or Ghost Hunting Investigators. That was the name of my team, Wasatch Paranormal Investigators, WPI. But you didn't wear those things in the 80s because people looked at you like you were Satan worshipers. Now it's become very commonplace. I mean, you can't go to a place now without them saying, "Oh, we have a ghost tour." and them charging you outrageously amounts. So it has changed. I've taken bishops on ghost hunts. I've had the wives of bishops specifically ask me to take them somewhere because of their curiosity. It has dramatically changed. I still get the stereotypical, you're dealing with dangerous things and you need to be careful and you don't know. And it's, you're always going to have that. But my favorite thing is I'll have somebody come up to me and go, you need to be really careful. Ghost hunting is really dangerous and they're evil. And then they will say, but my friend told me this really cool story.
Okay, so
or I went to this place. You shouldn't do this. It's dangerous. It's, you need to be careful. But I went to a haunted hotel and this is what happened to me. Okay,
that's awesome.
Don't judge me for what I'm doing. It's a hobby.
I want you to hold up the K2 meter thing again and explain to
us
what it does. And before you and I went on the air here, you were showing that to me.
Yeah.
It just looks super cool. Like first of all,
what's one of the older ones too.
I want one of those just for the fun of it. Like what is the price range of that? And explain what it does.
I think it's like $50 on Amazon now.
$50
and
on
the
Amazon.
Newer ones. So with this one, I've got to put a little penny in it to lock it in place. So
is that because it's messed up, or is that part of?
No, you just have to hold the button down. Some people say that if you hold the button right and you do things, you can manipulate it and trick things. So I'll shove a penny in there just so it doesn't look like I'm actually manipulating the light. And the theory is that a ghost can touch it and it'll light up, and you can get it to answer questions like, let it light up twice for yes and once for no. The newer ones, this little thing just clicks on. It's a power button. And it's a K2 meter. You can pick them up on Amazon.
Okay, and they measure EMFs, right?
EMF, electronic magnetic field. A lot of people believe that a spirit is just a giant ball of energy, and that's what we are.
But you described it as almost like having an electronic Ouija board, right?
Yeah. So I get a lot of people. We'll bring up the Ouija board. It's one of my favorite subjects. People are like, you shouldn't play with Ouija boards. Ouija boards are evil. And I'm like, there's no difference between a Ouija board and this. I'm holding this and I'm asking questions. You're putting your fingers on a board and you're asking questions. The difference is the questions that you ask. I'll have people come up to me at conventions. As a matter of fact, I'm doing 2 cons this year. I haven't gotten confirmation. I've got one that's down in Dallas, Texas. That's like September 22nd, I think, 23rd. Oh. And then I'm also doing Galaxy Con in Des Moines, Iowa, which is the 27th and 28th of September. I'll put that information up on Twitter, but I'll be doing a panel there. I usually do FanX in Salt Lake a lot as well. So I'll go in and do a little lecture, but I'll have people come walking up to me and go, wow, you shouldn't play with Ouija boards. And I'm like, why? Well, we had a really scary experience. We were in the basement and we had lit some candles and it was only dark. It was all these girls. And we started asking questions like, is the devil real? And I'm like, why would you do that in the first place? Okay.
And we are going to, by the way, talk about exorcisms and possession, stuff like that a little bit later on. But yeah, I see what you're saying. So you're don't invite trouble, right?
They have a Ouija board that is pink for girls. It comes with cards, pre-made cards with questions like, who's my husband going to be? Will he be successful? It's just a piece of wood. Anything can become evil if you start manipulating and asking those type of things and you start inviting them in. So I like the K2. It's kind of fun. It's visual. I don't know if we could probably show the flashlight video. So the K2's in this. You're actually going to see a flashlight. We're going to show a video. You're going to see a flashlight. I got the flashlight to slowly turn on and then turn off. Now, I will say this. Anybody who watches the TV shows, they see these guys doing this all the time now. It's become pretty popular with the flashlights being turned on and turned off. I actually am the first person who ever did it. I posted it up on YouTube, and within a month, I was seeing it on TV shows like crazy. So this was an experiment that I did. So when you hit play, you're actually going to see the video, and you're going to see the flashlight. Go ahead. This is at Area 51 in Salt Lake.
Area 51. So explain
it's a dance club. It's a dance club.
An abandoned one?
No, it's an actual act. You can actually still go there. It's a bar. But it used to be a mill, like a sheep mill, I think.
Okay.
So there have been some deaths there. There have been some deaths there.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So that's
here we go. If I need to pause this at any time, just holler, okay?
So the flashlight's on. You're going to hear me see it starting to roll.
You see that? Yeah. The flashlight just rolled.
Yeah. Okay. Nobody. Okay.
All right. Nobody's on the table. No, it's just me and 3 other people. We're standing away from the table, and then you're going to actually see the flashlight slowly go on or slowly dim. I ask it to dim.
It's rolling back and forth. It's just rolling back and
forth. So just so I understand, are you standing above the table?
I'm standing in front of it. I'm standing in front of the table and next to the camera. So I'm right behind the camera that's videotaping this.
Okay. So is it going on and off on its own then?
Yep. It's a mag flashlight, not a power switch. It's one of those old mag flashlights. We have to twist it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, so when they're saying it's rolling, are they saying they're physically seeing that?
You actually see the light move back and forth.
Okay.
So something's physically manipulating the flashlight.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Roll the flashlight completely off the table.
I wish it would have done that. It would have been epic.
Keep rolling it. There you go. You're doing it.
See it moving?
Mm-hmm.
Just roll the flashlight. For those that are watching the video, nobody's walking around.
Yeah.
So that's it.
I've got a longer one of that. It's like 17 minutes long.
Yeah.
I asked him to slowly dim the flashlight and then turn it back on. You actually
it responds, right?
It responds. You actually see the K2 meter. There's 2 K2 meters next to it. They both light up. When I ask it to light one up, it lights one up. Then I ask it to light the other one up. The other one lights up. I ask it to turn them both off, and they both turn off. So, it's
so despite all of these experiences that you've had, and you talked about the spurs, the jangling spurs, and that experience that you had, you still personally aren't 100% convinced. Is that right?
Yeah. So I honestly like to walk into everything with an open mind. I have a very good story about this. So there's a couple of radio hosts invited me onto their show in October in Salt Lake. Pat actually knows them from Salt Lake. Todd and Aaron. Anyway, so they were morning show hosts. I went on their show, talked about it one morning, and they said, "Hey, let's do a ghost hunt." So I take Erin on her very first ghost hunt, and you actually have an EVP from it. It's the peekaboo, then laughing. We'll play that in a second. We don't have to play it just yet, but so she's standing there, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Tom, I'm getting a cold chill." And I'm like, "You're standing next to an air vent." So I honestly like to go into these places with an extreme open mind. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? Accept the evidence. If there gets to a point where I cannot, for one reason or another, disprove what I find, then it's paranormal.
And so what percentage would you say of what you've experienced you can
I've given you, I want to say, okay, I want to say probably 60% of the experiences I've had, I've thrown out the window for one reason or another.
Okay.
Just because they could be something natural. Did the wind close that door? Did I slip and fall down the flight of stairs? So here's the things that have happened to me, physically happened to me. I've been pushed down flights of stairs more than once, physically pushed. I've had cigarette burns show up on my arm, just appear. I've had knives thrown at me. I actually had one get thrown across the room and stick into a wall right next to my face. I've been scratched down my back. If you go to season 4 of My Ghost Story episode 1, I'm in that, and I talk about an experience at the Baron Woolen Mill where I'm in the room where Mary was apparently raped and tortured, and I ask, "What did he do to you?" And I feel a hand go around the back of my neck and literally push me to the ground. At the time, I was 390 pounds. I've always been a big, strong guy. It was taking every ounce of energy that I had to keep myself from being pushed all the way to the ground. And I had 2 giant red marks on my neck.
How does that? How do you sleep after that?
I've become very desensitized by it. It takes a lot to freak me out. It really does. I was doing a ghost tour once, and we're walking through this building, and this door just slams in front of us. And I was like, "Oh, that was awesome." I turned around, and everybody was gone. Everybody that was with me just disappeared. I've walked through some of the most haunted locations by myself, and I've seen things. I'm just kind of like, it doesn't really freak me out much anymore. I always joke that if you see the short, fat, bald guy running out of the building, I highly recommend you follow me.
Would you say that these unexplained incidents do ghosts seek out people that are alone? Do they try to have a power advantage, or does it matter?
No. So I think some of the best evidence we've ever captured is us just sitting around, chit-chatting, having a good time. I joke that it's the Monster Inc. theory. Monster Inc., the scare, they got the energy when they scared the kids from screaming, but they would get more energy if the kids were laughing and having fun. I think the same goes with the ghost. We can actually play the peekaboo one now. You're going to listen to this very closely. You're going to hear a little girl go, peekaboo, and then a laugh.
Okay, here we go. Peekaboo and then a laugh.
It's really faint. Play it right from the start.
No, I hear it. Yeah. Okay, I'll hit this again. Here we go. There's the peek. I mean, the peekaboo is very cool.
And then I don't.
Where was that? That was at the.
So that was actually at the old Midville high school that is torn down. I think I've got it. Is it? Are we gonna have fun? I think
okay, let me see
here. It's the same. I think I did. I not put it on here?
Let's see, gonna have fun. I'm looking at the file names right now. I don't see that one.
Yeah, I don't see that one. So I actually got another EVP of that same voice in. Are we going to have fun tonight?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly think that after a while, a paranormal investigator's aura changes. Their energy changes. I walk into a place, the ghosts see me and go, "Ooh, that person's going to listen to me. That person's done this before."
Interesting, yeah.
One way or another.
So there's been some interesting questions on here. I just don't want to get too far from them. I think you know what? I can star these. I'm going to start starring these for easier reference later. But
again, going back to what you were saying about how I'm very skeptical, I am very skeptical. Do I believe there are ghosts? Yes. Do I believe every place that says is haunted is haunted? No. There
was a question. Say that again.
I said, do I believe the TV shows? Here's my theory on the TV shows. They're very entertaining. I have never been on a ghost hunt and had creepy music playing in the background.
Are all ghosts evil?
So that is a question that I've been asked several times.
Or are we just biased because, it's the fear of the unknown?
I don't have an honest answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
I can say this. In 34 years of paranormal investigation, I've done 4 demonic entities, 2 exorcisms, 2 house cleansings in the 34 years. It is
Hang on a second. So in 34 years, you're saying that you've been involved in only 2 of them were exorcists?
Two were physical exorcisms where a spirit one was a young boy and one was an older woman.
And why were you a part of these out of curiosity? Did they just say, hey, we know this guy?
One was on my mission.
Okay.
I served a mission for my church, and I'm very vocal, and people knew that I had done this before. And I got a phone call from my mission president saying, hey, you're probably the only person who probably won't think this is strange. We've got some people in your area that need some help. He told me what it was on. And I'll be honest with you, I was 19 years old. The scariest thing that had ever happened to me at that point was I had seen a full-fledged ghost on a ghost hunt before I went on my mission. So I was excited. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be great. I would not recommend anybody diving into the demonic side. You have John Zaffis, who has spent he is the nephew of, the Annabelle horror and the Annabelle, the people that did the Annabelle stuff, Annabelle horror, the investigation. He's the nephew. He is a demonologist. He has spent his entire life looking for these things. He has told me personally, I don't know why anybody would do it. I don't know either. So and I'll share this real quick. I don't like talking about it a lot because people like to focus in on the negative. And when you focus in on the darker stuff, that kind of brings it in. But I got asked to do this. I was told I should spiritually prepare myself to go. LDS, we fast a lot, fast once a month. He said, you should fast, be spiritually ready. He picked me up the next day. We pulled up to where the house is. And I'll be honest with you, Keith, I have never, ever felt anything that dark and evil before in my entire life. We weren't even in the house, and I could tell there was something there. We went in.
Okay, and I know you don't want to really get into details.
No. Go ahead.
And that's totally fine. But just a question, and if maybe you don't know the answer, but in these incidents where you were a part of these kind of spiritual battles, I guess, for lack of a better word, do you know how these entities kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, again, entered these people? Like, were they specifically
in every experience in the 4 experiences that I've had, there's been something involved. There has been some sort of child abuse. In the first case that I did, it was actual sexual abuse. Child abuse, sexual abuse, pornography, alcoholism, or they moved into a place that already had something dark and demonic there. A good example of that is a haunting in Georgia. They made a movie about it, but there's a documentary that was done by John Zaffis that's actually better. It talks a
might have been a song about it too.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, the devil went down to Georgia.
Okay, so what was it?
So a haunting in Georgia. Anyway, those 4 things. There's sexual abuse, pornography, demonic research, or diving into that, so those things, or they moved into a place that already had something there before they moved in. I walked into this room. We performed the exorcism. I left. I had never been that sick in my entire life. Emotionally sick. Physically sick for like 2-3 weeks after. I was just depressed. It was horrible. The second time I was home, I was married. I was in a ward. Something happened. I was asked to help out with that again. And then the 2 house cleansings. One was a building that someone had been doing some satanic stuff in the building. They asked us to come bless it. And then there was a house that had some kid was diving into some things he probably shouldn't have. Something was there, and they asked us to bless it. 4 times in 34 years. Demonic entities, I want to say, is 0.5% of a haunting. I tell anybody, if you feel like it's getting out of control, let's say you're in a haunted house, your home's haunted, and you feel like it's getting out of control. I tell everybody they should reach out to whoever their clergy is. I actually was at a fair one time, and I had this Baptist preacher come walking up to me, and he goes, "Oh, ghost hunter, huh? Well, I never met a ghost that didn't walk away from the word of God." And I went, "I did, but he was Jewish." So if you're Jewish, having a Mormon person come in to your home and try to remove it, it may not work, because you got to believe it here and in your heart. Have your clergy do it. Go to your clergy.
Okay.
Because you've got to believe it as well. If you have a house that's acting up, some people will automatically say, and again, it's the TV shows, something bad happens. Somebody gets scratched or somebody gets pushed. And they're like, "Oh, it's a demon." No, you literally were just telling it off or saying something evil, bad to it. You were making it mad. Sometimes
your dog might be alerting you right now of an evil spirit.
He's barking at.
Trust me, I'm gonna get my own go at it here soon. When
I got a giant yellow lab. I got a giant yellow lab who is
awesome.
My best buddy. But yeah, he's at the bottom of the basement stairs behind the door. He doesn't. I don't want him to come in because he just gets all excited and he gets in.
Understood. So let me ask you this, because we kind of touched on it with the way the attitudes within your church have shifted in your time doing this ghost hunting. We just talked there about exorcism and possession and so on. It seems like, and maybe it's different now across the board than it was in years previous, but I've always got this feeling. Now, I was raised Southern Baptist,
okay,
and I guess I've always had this feeling that, oh no, there's no way ghosts exist. I never really had a big conversation about them with anybody, but it just kind of got the vibe that no, they don't exist. And then I posted this poll actually today.
I saw that. I saw the poll.
Yeah, and the poll was, which do you believe is more likely to exist? I think we kind of stumbled on this at the Drinks with Keith thing I did last night on Twitter. What do you think is more likely to exist, ghosts or aliens? And last time I checked here before we started, 56% of the people said they believe in ghosts more than aliens. That was 44% aliens more than ghosts. But the comments, and there were many, that kind of said, they're the same thing, or they're both demons. Let's see. A lot of people saying they're both demons. Let's see. I printed up some more here. Yeah. Let's see. A lot of people saying they've seen ghosts. Anyhow, so I guess that kind of leads me into my question: is there a chance that ghosts, these experiences that you've documented, that others have documented, the evidence is out there, is there a chance that these are indeed demons or something along the lines of evil like that?
So here again, I'll go back to my first demonic experience. I'd never felt anything like it before. Typically when I go on a ghost hunt, if I start feeling something like that, I'm telling everybody to leave. It's not very often. It's very rare. Can they be manipulating us? It's totally possible. Could it be just us? Could we, and this is a theory that I've had, could we somehow psychically be imprinting those voices onto the recorder ourselves because we want the evidence so badly? Do we have that type of power?
Okay, so
we
all right,
don't know.
That may require a higher level of faith, really, than believing in the ghosts. Because now you're saying, okay, maybe I don't believe in ghosts, but I believe I have the power to imprint onto this thing because I want it so badly. So I don't know which one is more likely to be real if you had to pick one.
And again, it comes right back down to, I do this because it's fun. I like the experience. I get to go walk around historical locations late at night without some sort of guide telling me I can't touch that. I got to walk through Fort Bridger, Wyoming, from 10 p.m. till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I got to go. I don't know if you've ever been to Fort Bridger.
Where in Wyoming? I don't guess so.
Fort Bridger, Wyoming. It's just past Evanston.
Okay.
So Fort Bridger was a major fort between Nebraska and Salt Lake City. It was a huge fort. Anyway, it's extremely haunted. There's a couple of ghosts there, but you've been to a museum where they have a little door and you can look through the little window and you can see inside the room. You know, you can't go into the room, but you can look into it. They opened those doors for me. I got to walk into those rooms. I didn't care at that point if I got to see a ghost that night or not. I'm walking through a place where some of the most famous people in the world sat in. I got to go into rooms that most people don't get to go into. That to me is worth it. You throw ghosts on top of it and you capture something that makes you go, that was cool, and even adds to it more. That's the history buff in me. That's
I was gonna say, as you're a history major, right? That's incredible. Yeah, I would think that would be a lot of fun too.
That's I was joking with you before we went on the air. I would love to go down to Glenn's museum.
Yeah,
and ghost hunt Glenn's museum.
He's
just for the fact to get to walk through that late at night without a tour guide, and not necessarily touch stuff, because I hear Glenn's a pretty good shot, and I don't want to break, Mercury 1 or whatever, but to go in there when there isn't anybody else and experience that stuff. I remember you and Pat did a little tour, a backstage tour on the show. That had to have been cool. Getting to go walk through there and see that stuff without some tour guide telling you some crazy, story. You got to experience yourself.
Yeah.
That's what ghost hunting is.
Yeah, no, I could totally see the draw to that aspect. I've got a couple questions marked here. In your experience, do you ever hunt ghosts during the day? Because here's a question from Julie. I'd like to know why most ghost hunts, all the lights have to be turned off. Yeah, what is that? Is it because people aren't at work, and they can check in at the evening?
It's
or
just
what's
cool.
Going on? It's just more cool.
Okay. It's a thrill seeker thing.
So have you had experiences in the sun?
Yeah, so I have a great story of that. I was one of the very last paranormal investigators that was legally allowed to do a ghost hunt at the Salt Lake City Cemetery. They don't let people do that. There are people that go there at night and sneak on to the cemetery, but that's trespassing. Rule number 1 in ghost hunting is if you can't get in legally, you don't go. Okay. There are some ghost hunters that are on YouTube, Sam and something else or whatever. They started by breaking into buildings. If I ever see these guys, I'll probably rip them a new hole, because that is not the way to do it. If you can't get in legally, don't go, because nothing will screw up a ghost hunt faster than being arrested.
What do you think of this question here?
I'll go into that. So I'm in the Salt Lake City Cemetery. I always like to go in the daytime, kind of walk around, especially since I actually had a friend step in an open grave and almost die. I want to know where I'm walking to make sure it's safe. So I'm walking along this road and I see this guy sitting on a tombstone, and he was in a nice suit, just sitting there. And I was raised by a Southern gentleman. I was always taught that you never pass somebody without saying hello. And I said, "Hey, how are you?" And all of a sudden I heard, "You can see me?" I stopped and I turned and he was gone. And he was as physical as you are to me. That was how physically I could see him. It was in the middle of the day. I was like, okay, I'm coming back here. Coming back to the spot.
I bet.
We went back and I got an EVP that says, "I'm waiting." And I looked at the tombstone. It was right around the time that he died. Was he just visiting because he thought maybe some of his family was going to come and visit his grave at the time of his death? Fort Bridger has a great ghost story. There was an elderly couple. They retired. They volunteered at Fort Bridger. and they basically lived there. They were caretakers. They were there for 3 or 4 years, and the husband passed away. The wife stayed on. There started being stories that the husband was seen. Chores that he would normally do would just be done. The minute she passed away, he was no longer seen. Was he waiting for her so they could cross over together? I don't know.
Wow, man. That's
Do ghosts come and visit us? And check in on us? I've had a lot of experiences where people have said, I think somebody was saying that their daughter passed and is watching them. A lot of experience where people say, I feel like my husband is coming and visiting us, or I feel like my grandfather is who's passed on has come to console me, or in times that are tough. I personally have never had that. My sisters both have. My father passed away when I was rather young. I was 12 years old. Both my sisters feel like my dad has come and visited them. I've never had that experience, and maybe it's because I don't need it. I don't know. But I let me share my very, very first ghost experience. And this one's kind of creepy, but I was 6 years old. My dad was in the Air Force. We lived in Holland for a few years. We lived in Germany for a few years. We actually got to go visit Berchtesgadens, the home of the Nazis, a town that was completely built just for the Third Reich. And you had to be an elite to go to this place. 6 years old, we were in a hotel. They called it the Nazi Hotel. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I saw a man in a uniform. I knew what a uniform was. Again, I was pretty young. And he was walking, pacing in our bedroom, in our room, back and forth. He'd stop, he'd turn, he'd look at us, he'd shake his head, and he'd walk and disappear. This went on all night. My sister saw him. My dad could feel him. And my dad said that he felt like someone was holding him in the bed and he couldn't get up. He could not sit upright. The next morning, we were walking downstairs, and on the wall down the stairs were some of the paintings of some of the Nazi officers that had stayed in this hotel. I said, Dad, that's the guy that was in our room. It was Himmler that I pointed to, the head of the SS.
Oh, my, no.
The very first ghost I ever saw was the man who was responsible for killing 6 million Jews.
Oh, my gosh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an interesting question.
Sure.
Look at this one here. Mr. Carr, do you believe there is a connection between attachments and sudden onset of mental illness if you lived in a house with spirits?
Ooh, that is
that's a deep question right there.
That is a deep question.
This is the place to ask them, though.
So here is a philosophy that Russ Larson and I both came up with. What if people that were in mental institutions in the late 1800s, early 1900s, even sooner, their schizophrenia wasn't because of a mental illness. It was because they were visualizing or actually physically seeing spirits, and those spirits could tell that they could be seeing them and was causing them to be crazy. So yes, I do believe that's possible. I have not experienced myself. I can tell you this. I did an investigation at a home. I was called up and asked to come and do this investigation at a house. And I always liked to go to the houses before we actually do the investigation to ask some questions to make sure these people, one, aren't crazy, two, just don't want, somebody to come hang out with them for a few hours because they think ghost hunting's kind of cool. And you'd be surprised at how many people that have done that.
Wild goose chases, huh?
Yeah. So I went in there, and I'm very in tuned. I do not consider myself psychic. I've had some people say that I probably have some psychic skills. I don't know if I believe in that or not. I just know I've been doing it for a long time. I can feel things. I can sense things, that heebie-jeebie kind of thing. So I'm walking through the house, and the mom told me that the daughter did not want to sleep in her bedroom, refused to sleep in her bedroom. So I walk into the daughter's room, and up on the dresser, there was this little clock. It was like one of those little kids' clocks, a little bear on it, And I kept getting drawn to that clock. And just out of the top of my head, I said, "Where'd you get that clock?" As soon as I said that, the mom broke down and freaked out. She's freaking out. I'm like, "Okay, I'm sorry. I asked you about the clock, Turns out that clock was given to her by her mother, who was a Satan worshiper and currently in an insane asylum for mental illness. I went, okay, for the first thing I want you to do is get rid of that clock.
Mm-hmm.
So we took the clock and we moved the clock because this was on a Wednesday night. We were doing the ghost hunt on a Friday night. So let's move the clock into the kitchen, see what happens. The daughter refused to go into the kitchen and started sleeping in her bedroom. I took that clock. She asked me to take that clock away when we finished the ghost hunt. I had set it in my truck, and I had this old Ford Ranger, and it had a tape deck in it. You know how you had the old tape deck where you push it in and you could hook up to an MP3 player,
Oh, yeah. The CD player.
Little CD player or whatever, yeah. So I had that, and it was not raining. It was a clear night. I got home. I set the clock on the passenger seat of the truck. It was really late. It was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So I just got in and went home, went into bed. Came up the next morning because I had to go to the store. Got out. The cassette had been ejected from the radio, and my window wipers were on, and that clock was sitting right there. So, yes, I believe mental illness is possible with a spirit if people don't know how to deal with it. And what I tell people is, if you have a ghost in your home, the best thing for you to do is say, "Hey, listen, you're scaring me. You're freaking me out. Could you please stop?"
So it's okay. I'm not. It sounds like I'm being facetious, but I'm not. It's okay to show weakness, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it is.
Because
Otherwise, who knows? A lot of times, hauntings could be you move into an older home, somebody who died that lived there. Maybe they built that house themselves. They had put their love. I mean, you look at your own house. You put your own things into it. You're talking about your peach tree in the backyard, how you've been watching it grow. You've put your heart and your soul into your home. Somebody had done that. They pass away. For one reason or another, they're still in the house. Who knows why? You move in and you start putting your own touches into that house. You start knocking down walls. You start changing wallpaper. Start painting different colors. And that person is like, "What in the F are you doing to my home?" They're angry. They're upset. Okay? So usually the best thing for you to do is just simply say, "I understand this was your home. Maybe this was your home. You're freaking me out. You're freaking our kids out." Be honest with them. And you've got to have everybody in the family willing to do that.
What do you mean? Explain that.
So I did this investigation where there was this ghost in the house, and I explained that. I said, "Listen, this is the best thing to do. Sit the family around the table. Say, hey, can you please maybe not bother us? Maybe go somewhere we're not. If we're not in a room, you can go hang out in that room. Talk it over." Kate, and when things start acting up, say a door closes, just say, "Hey, can you please stop that? It's really freaking the kids out." So I told the family to do that. 2 weeks goes by, and the mom calls me up. She says, "Yeah, activity's getting worse." And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, "Okay, let me come out and see what's going on." Turns out that the little daughter, the younger kid, she was like 9 or 10 years old, liked the ghost, didn't want him to leave, and was telling him to do the things.
Oh, come on now, girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got to be a unified force. And again, you've got to believe it here and here. And it goes back to, if you don't think it, you need that extra hook or that extra help, call in your clergy, ask them to bless the home.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you don't have a faith, use crystals, use sage and all that natural stuff. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. If that is what makes you comfortable, then do what makes you comfortable.
Okay. So, man, I've got so much stuff here, and I'm writing down more stuff that comes to mind here. What are some good, let's say you think you have an entity in your home or somewhere in your world. What are some questions? Are there good questions that you should be
My-
asking?
I'll
Conversation
show you
starters for the
My
spiritual.
favorite EVP questions. Where did you bury the gold? Show me where it is. Because if you show me where it is, I'll believe that you're a ghost and I can do this forever. Another one is give me what is your social security number? Another good one.
That actually is a good one, because then you could figure out who you're talking to.
Some of my other favorite EVP questions are what was your favorite color? Did you have a pet? Was it a dog? Was it a cat? You don't want to do open-ended questions. You don't want to do the yes or no's. You want specific questions.
Is Halloween a big a deal in your realm as it is in this one?
Yeah.
Or is it just another day for y'all?
I'll even ask, what color is my shirt? Because I'm curious if they're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing.
Oh, that's a great question.
Or can you tell me your name? Why are you here?
What's your birthday? Is that a good one?
What's your birthday? Let's play EVP that says, I'm dead. You're going to hear a woman's voice say, okay. I'm dead.
Okay. And here's another question. This might help you know who you are, like what era you're talking to, right? You could say, who's the president?
Yeah. Who's the president?
Cleveland, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking for
I'm dead.
You're dead. I'm dead.
I'm
Let's
dead.
see here. I'm dead. Here we go. I'm dead. Oh my gosh, yeah, I heard that.
You play it again. It was really cool.
Yep. Right here. And go. I'm
dead.
So, do we know who that was? Was that
that was actually caught up at a place called Mercer Cemetery in Utah. Yeah.
That's got to freak you out when you're in the middle of a cemetery, not a sound around, and then
you record that.
Do you find the audio later? Like, in other words,
Yeah,
maybe you don't hear something.
So I've actually done that. I actually have a recorder that I can put the earphones on and I can hear it. And I've actually heard EVPs live. I'm trying to think if there's one on here that. Okay, let's play. Are You Angry? Let me set this up. This is at a hotel in Tooele, Utah. For legal reasons, I'm not allowed to say the name of the hotel because they don't like people knowing it's haunted. But it just happens to be the same name of a captain of the USS Enterprise 1701. Anyway, I'll let you figure it out. Story goes that there's a little girl on the third floor that's seen. I start playing the dad in me. Listen, young lady, if you don't start talking, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to hear me say, something just tugged my shirt. I swear to God, something just tugged my shirt. And you're going to hear a little girl's voice say, are you angry? And then you hear me say, I just got a cold chill.
Okay, are you angry? Here we go.
Are you angry?
I swear to God, it felt like something just tugged my shirt. I felt like something just tugged my shirt. Did someone want to let me know they were here? Tug on my shirt again. Yeah, I got a cold chill.
Yeah, I heard that. Here we go.
Here? Tug on my shirt again.
Get to pump up that volume there. Yeah,
I pumped it up a little bit. I don't like to enhance on that one.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I love about this EVP is that it actually has all three things that can happen. I get a physical contact. I feel my shirt being tugged. We get a voice response to a question. And then we get a temperature drop. Those are the three most common things that happen on a ghost hunt.
Okay, so as a ghost hunter, when if the first thing you feel is the temperature drop, or I guess or the physical contact before you, like, is there an order? In other words, if you do experience all three, is it always in the same order or is it just random?
No, it's just random.
Okay.
Do I have that one on here? Oh, I don't. I thought I did. I got an EVP that says it's too cold. I keep asking it to drop the temperature down, and we go from 80 degrees down to 60 degrees on a thermometer, and I actually get an EVP that says it's too cold. So, yeah.
Hey, let me scroll back up here. There was a question that I wanted to see if you could answer here. That's from Queen Bee. Tom, have you ever had a pet, usually a dog, or heard of one that keeps staring at the ceiling? My dogs did that all the time, all did that when death was imminent. My Chihuahua died on Christmas. I'm so sorry. He
I'm
stared at
sorry.
that spot. What?
So I've
animals have
actually
a
done
sixth
ghost.
sense?
I've actually done some ghost hunts where we've actually brought dogs in to see if anything would happen. We at the Baron Wallen Mill, we brought some dogs in.
Wow.
I have a funny story about a dog. This was in the early 90s. I had a couple that asked me to come and check out their house because they would leave or they would go to bed and they'd wake up in the morning and their entire front room would just be completely messed up, just destroyed, cushions and everything. So we asked them to leave. We were going to stay in the house all night long and see what happened. And me and two other people, we sat in the house all night long and nothing happened. We had cameras set up, nothing. So I go home and I listen to the recording and I kept hearing a dog barking, but it was really close. I mean, it was like, I was like, they don't have a dog. Where's the dog? So I went back and I drove through the neighborhood. The closest dog was like 5 houses down. And it sounded like the dog was in the same room with us. So I go back and I tell him, I said, nothing happened. I went over the audio. And the only strange thing is I hear this dog and I play the dog. And the lady looks at me, she goes, oh my God, that's Rusty. It's like, huh? Their dog had just died like a week or two before. And she goes, that makes total sense. If we left and we didn't take him with us, he would tear up the front room. So the ghost dog was tearing up their front room. And not to get too cheesy, but it's kind of cheesy. I said, okay. She's like, what do we need to do? And I says, well, you need to let it go. You need to just let it go on to wherever dogs go. So I literally told them to open the door and let the dog out. Who let the dog out? I literally did it. But no, I believe that dogs can sense these things. I think there's great examples of dogs knowing what smelling cancer. There's a research going on. I think I just read it that there's a dog that can sniff out cancer now, or they've been working on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think animals are very sensitive.
COVID too, yeah.
Except for cats. I don't think cats are sensitive. I think
Cats got their own.
Cats are pure demonic. It's as simple as that.
Hold on a second. You just reminded me of a question that Carol Remarks asked earlier. Up in the thing there, I remember seeing it. She asked, I think it was Carol. If not, I apologize. Are ghosts perhaps atheists? Like, are
It's
these
possible.
people that are hanging out and Catholic?
Could you imagine how
purgatory or
pissed
something?
you would be if you were an atheist and you got stuck here for all eternity because you didn't believe in God? And I was like, sorry, no, you can't come in. You didn't believe in me. So guess
Look,
what?
it's
You're
a
gonna get
consolation
stuck-
prize, right? You're not
Yeah,
going to
you're gonna get
hell.
Yeah, you're going to get stuck in some old crappy building that somebody goes wandering through every now and then and asks some stupid questions. I honestly believe that there's probably some ghosts who think we're funny. Ghost hunters are funny. Oh, great. Here they come again. Oh, will you just leave me alone? I'm dead already. I don't want to tell you where the gold is buried. I don't want to tell you what my favorite color is. I don't want to do it. So
I did catch a question earlier on Twitter when I posted that poll. This was from Apocalypse Farley, who asked or wrote this. Maybe it's not a question, but I want to ask you from this. I went on the Amador Hotel Ghost Tour in 2013. I don't know if that rings a bell to you.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where is this located? The Amador?
I don't know where it's at, but I saw the question. Yeah.
Went with my girlfriend. I don't have the time to type the entire experience, but something followed us home. Her house and mine. Do not fool around with this stuff. So my question to you is, in your experience, do these entities follow people places?
It's possible. I've had it a couple of times. We actually have a ghost that followed us home. His name is Matt. We know his name because my son at the time, who's now 26, he was 8 years old. Dad's a ghost hunter. I bought him a little MP3 player because he wanted music. It's the same one that I use to do ghost hunting. What's the first thing he does? He goes in his bedroom and he starts asking EVP questions. He says, "What's your name?" And we get a very distinct Matt. So I had some people that were psychics who say Matt is somehow related to me, and he feels like he needs to protect me from when I go on ghost hunts. And I actually noticed that after Matt was attached to me, I wasn't getting as much evidence. I actually literally had to tell Matt, "Listen, this is what I do for fun. Can you please stop scaring other ghosts away from me?" So, yeah.
Did that work?
It
Did the
worked.
ghost
Yeah.
return to
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
realm?
So no, Matt is still with us, but he's actually my son, my oldest boy, and my middle boy. They bought a house together. They live out in Utah, and they believe the ghost is there. They believe Matt, for some reason or other, is watching over them, and it's possible because I'm my grandson.
Okay,
I
hang on a
picked him
second.
up. Go ahead.
Don't forget that thought, but I also want you to address that. How do they travel? I guess, like, are they sitting in the truck physically? The
So
U-Haul
I was
going with?
actually, so I tell people when they go on a ghost hunt, before you leave, always do this. Always say, "Hey, thank you for communicating with us. We really appreciate it. Please don't follow me home. Please stay here." There have been times that I have forgotten to do that. And nothing is more frightening than when you're driving home by yourself and you look in your rearview mirror and there's someone sitting in your back seat that shouldn't be there. I mean, I've done some swirls and I've stopped and I'm like, "Whoa, okay, you need to go." So yeah, it does happen. If people go on a ghost hunt and they want to experience, but they're kind of worried about it, kind of freaked out, they're afraid something's going to follow home, something's going to attack them. I tell them, one of my favorite Disney movies is Bolt. The dog, but I love the little squirrel or the little hamster in it, Rhino. Rhino's like my hero because when he's in his hamster ball, nothing can attack him. He's Superman. He's invincible in that little hamster ball. So I tell people when you go on a ghost hunt, imagine yourself in a giant hamster ball, drill some holes in it so you can breathe. And then if you believe here and here, nothing can get through that, most likely nothing will. And I say most likely because there's always that chance. But just imagine you're in this giant shell or a giant bubble. If you start getting freaked out to the point where you think you're going to run out, it's always best for you to step out. Because most people get hurt on ghost hunts, not from ghosts, but from doing something that has freaked them out and running out and tripping and falling and getting hurt. So if you're starting, and when I do a ghost hunt or a ghost tour with someone, I'm watching people. I'm very observant. And if I start seeing somebody who's kind of acting a little freaky, I will walk up to them and say, "Hey, are you okay? Do we need to go outside for a little bit?" The joke again, if you ever see a short, fat, bald guy running out of a haunted building, you should probably follow me. It freaked me out.
I think I interrupted you when you were talking about your grandson, I think.
Oh, so yeah, I've got a grandson, and I think that's the reason why Matt's there, is watching over my grandson.
Okay,
my grandson's actually blind, so I think Matt is there watching him.
Oh, wow.
I've had a lot of people tell me that Matt is somehow related to me. I picked him up at the Wendover Air Force Base. So the Wendover Air Force Base, a lot of people don't know the history behind it, or maybe they should, is actually where they assembled the 2 bombs that they dropped on Japan.
Okay, yeah.
Very, very haunted place. I actually was in one of the buildings and we were doing what we call provoking. Provoking is where you're asking not the politest questions in the world, trying to get a ghost to respond to you. I was using some terminology that someone in World War II era would not like being called, being derogatory on their sexual preferences.
Okay.
I was standing there, solid as a rock. I had a digital camera in one hand and my digital recorder in the other. And we were trying to get it to knock over this cup that was sitting on a table. And I said, "You can't do it. You can't knock over or anything." I felt like a hand hit my chest and a leg swoop, a military leg swoop, threw me right down on the ground. Both my
Oh
feet.
my goodness.
Yeah. I joked that there were 3 skid marks that night, my 2 feet on the floor, and the third one. Yeah, it scared the hell out of me.
I bet.
And the funny thing is, if I wish I could find the video. It's on a hard drive somewhere in a box somewhere, but you really can't see it, but you hear me fall, and everybody thought I slipped and fell at first, and they're like, Tom, are you okay? And you hear me go, that was awesome, and I stand up and I explain what happened. The next day, I was in pain. I mean, a big boy falling flat on his back, but yeah. I don't put up a shield. I don't put up any sort of protection around me when I go on a ghost hunt, because I want to be the target, especially if I'm doing a ghost tour. I don't want anybody else to get attacked, and I just think it's cool. I'm weird. I like getting scratched. I like getting pushed. I like doors being slammed on my face. I was like, go ahead, do it. I don't care.
That's fun. Now, I know you sent over some pictures for us to check out. Some photographs I think you took.
Let's
is it at that Air Force base you're talking about?
Yep, the Windover. Okay. So, and I'll upload these to my Twitter account if you want to come follow me.
Be sure take the time right now. Yeah, go follow him at TCarP. Okay, so which of these photos do you want to put up on the screen?
Let's do the Windover one first, the Windover with text. This is actually the building where I actually got picked up and thrown to the ground. Okay. We actually have lost count of how many ghosts we actually see in this photo. If you look in that door well right there.
Hang on, try to zoom out. Okay, so there we go.
Yeah, you zoom in.
I'm going to zoom in.
That is me standing in that doorway.
Okay, so you're
in that doorway, and and here's the interesting thing: the closer you get to it, the clearer.
Let's see if I can do this right.
You're
okay.
Going,
there's you. Okay. Yep.
The closer you zoom in, the more clearer the face is of the person who's standing behind me. I'm 5'9". That person's got to be at least 7 feet tall. I give credit for this photo was taken by my good friend Russ Larson, who runs Utah Paranormal. He's just like me. He loves the research side of this, and him and I, we did a podcast for years called Residual Hauntings, Residual Hauntings Live. You can find some of the old episodes still, but we dived into the deep stuff. Him and I would just sit and chit chat and talk. But yeah, if you look there, you can see that face.
Yeah. So there's I do see what you're saying there. I see. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Man.
Yeah.
All right. So do we want to explore?
Me.
You want me to zoom out and this. Is my cursor show up? I can't tell.
Yep, it does. Yep, your cursor showing.
Okay, so that's you me, there, and then
there's something right next to me, and I'll upload this to my Twitter account.
Okay, let me see here.
Then let's.
Do you want me to zoom this out here, and then we can just tell me where to go on this picture?
So go down to the child's face. You see where it says child's face?
That's
zoom into that one. There's a little kid there that looks like it. Some say it looks almost like an angel, like an angel's face.
That's what I want to ask you. It almost sounds like Matt is a guardian angel. Is that possible that some of these are just
totally
mischievous?
Possible. Yeah, it's totally possible that mischievous. It's a guardian angel. Yeah, and that's what I've had a lot of people tell me is that Matt is a guardian angel. So, and going back on the provoking thing, I am not looking forward to when I pass away because I have a funny feeling there's going to be a line. It's going to be like that scene in Airplane where they're all lining up to beat the lady up. There's going to be this line of ghosts waiting to kick my ass.
Oh, no, bro.
Yeah.
Because you've been doing this
Remember when you went through this? Yeah, and you said, I'm finally going to get even with you. So, yeah.
That's funny. Okay, let's see. What was the other part of this picture? There was something else up here.
There's another face in though. Yeah, those are the two best ones. Let's go to one of the green light one.
Green light. Okay, let me see if I can find that. Streaks of light. Okay, got it. Hang on. Stand by. Streaks of light. I got it here somewhere. There we go. You want me to zoom in on anything here?
No, we just
no.
So here's the interesting thing. This is the Baron Woolman Mill. No power in the building whatsoever. It is about 3:00 in the morning, and we get these streaks of energy going through that room.
This is the building where the young lady Mary
Mary was killed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We know of 4 deaths. One A boy got sucked into the machinery.
Oh,
His
God.
hand got sucked in the machinery, killed him. We know of another ghost named Phil, who was kind of a caretaker, who had a heart attack overnight when nobody was there, and they didn't find him until Monday morning. Then we have another man who fell into a well and drowned. And then there was another person, I can't remember his name. Another person just died because of machinery. And then we had
that guy's going to be waiting for you when you die. He's like,
Oh, yeah.
You didn't remember my name when you did that podcast back in 2024, jerk.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, that I think that's interesting. So I get a lot of people, well, look at all those orbs. I am not a believer in orbs. If you want to believe in orbs, that's fine.
Okay.
Typically, though, I think they're dust, bugs, and they can be easily explained away as to something that isn't paranormal.
So
if you want to believe in orbs, that's totally fine. I don't, just for the simple fact, like I said, it's possible that it could be something else that is physical. So
you find it possible to explain away orbs, but not the streaks of light. Like, you're for sure that this camera was perfectly still.
It was sitting on a tripod, and we had a remote control to take the picture.
Okay.
And it did have a flash, but there's no reason. It didn't move. There's no explanation to what those streaks of lights are.
Okay.
Other than I think that maybe it's a portal, and there's spirits running through it, and that's a theory.
Well, now we're doing portals. Interesting.
Yeah.
So what's your theory on portals?
I do believe that there are some places.
Okay, before you expound on that, there's another photo from the same building, correct?
Yep.
You want me to put that up so we can address that and put a bow on this? Okay. Let me put that photo up. This is a pretty cool photo here. Yeah. Hang on. All right, what are we looking at here?
Okay, again, this is the middle of July, 90 degrees outside, and we've got some sort of mist showing up for no reason whatsoever. And we had a lot of spiritual activity in this particular part of the building that night too. Could it be a ghost? Could be. Could it be a photo, something that we caught on the camera? Totally possible. I just think it's an interesting photograph as far as that goes.
Definitely. Okay.
Portals.
So let's go back. Yeah, portals. Talk to us.
Portals. So I do believe that there are some places that the veil between here and the other side is thinner. That there are certain places that may have major events. I've always wanted to investigate 9/11, the site of 9/11. I've always wanted to investigate Auschwitz. That would be very difficult because you'd have to do it just right. You would have to be very respectful, but it would be interesting. I do believe those places have portals to the other side that are thinner than other places. I believe that some places may have them just because they just certain type of energy. I think spirits feed off of our energy. They feed off of our inner battery. Glenn was just talking about it on the show about AI and how they're going to have to figure out how to use biology or biological stuff to power AI because we don't have enough energy to power AI. So the whole Matrix thing, how we're giant batteries, I think spirits can actually do that. I have found that spirits are more active when we're just sitting around joking, talking, and having a good time. They can be active when we're being aggressive, when we're trying to be provoking, but just chitting around, talking seems to be that they want to be involved as well. So they feed off of us. That's another reason why when I go into a ghost hunt, I try to open myself up as best I possibly can so they can feed off of my energy.
So, okay, let's just take me as an example.
Okay.
I've never had an experience, even on the ghost tour that I did in Charleston. Okay. I've never had anything that even made me think that there was another presence with me. I mean, I've been creeped out, especially as a kid. You know, you hear a sound, something like that. But I've never experienced anything where I said, now I know people that I trust that I believe when they explain their ghost, for lack of a better word, ghost stories, to me, it's very believable. I have no reason to doubt these people. But me, like if I want to experience an entity, a ghost, I want an encounter.
Mhm.
What are some, short of using a Ouija board like we discussed earlier?
No,
Um,
don't do that.
yeah. So how can I, for lack of a better word, provoke Casper, the friendly ghost? How can I
It really comes down to where you are and what you're asking. That has a lot to do with it, I think, and being open-minded. I've met people who a ghost could walk right up to them, right in the face, and say, "I'm a ghost," and they would rationalize it out and figure out a way of saying
right?
that's not true. So being open-minded, and again, I am not here to prove the paranormal.
Right.
That is
And I
not
appreciate
why I
that,
do
by
that.
the way. That's good.
I'm here to share some experiences that I've had throughout the 34 years of doing this, and encouraging people to do it the right way. The right way is, one, never trespass. Two, go with an open mind. Three, look at what you find, rationalize it. If it can be physically or it can be explained, then it probably isn't paranormal. And have fun.
Mhm.
Go and have fun.
Yeah, and let's revisit just real quick, because the audience now may have missed the first part of the show. If somebody wants to get into the realm of ghost hunting,
Mhm.
let's go through a checklist here of some of the things.
I highly recommend that people go on a ghost tour, but do it private tour. It can be a little bit more expensive. If you go on a public tour, there's usually way too many people.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to do a public tour, go ahead. I can just guarantee you that it's not going to happen. I've done some public tours, and it drives me nuts because I bring in my gear, my toys and all that stuff, and I go wandering off by myself. And I usually get the tour guide mad at me, but I'll go walking into a prison cell room, and I'll sit at the prison cell room with my gear, and I'll just start asking questions, and things start happening. And the next thing you know, what you've got 50 people in that room with you because something's happening. They want to see what's going on.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
The public tours are usually overbooked because they're charging a lot of money. If you can do a private tour and you can afford it, great.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay. So hold on. I'm going to make a list here of ghost hunting gear. Somebody wants to start it up here. What can you buy?
You know what the best piece of equipment you can bring? Yourself. Open mind, yourself. Next, a decent digital recorder. I like one that's got a condenser mic in it. They seem to pick up better. If you want to go old school and you want to go analog, that's totally cool too. I still occasionally do it. I've got an old tape deck that I'll bring. It's got a microphone. Excuse me. That I'll bring. And then you can start getting into the more expensive stuff. For the love of Pete, do not use the ghost apps on your phone.
Oh yeah, that's right. Somebody asked that. Okay. Somebody did ask that. Hold on. Hold that thought. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Hold that
okay,
thought
so
on
don't
the ghost.
use that. So
okay. So real quick,
buy
ghost
a K2 meter. Yeah, buy a K2 meter.
K2 meter, and you can get those on Amazon. You said.
Yeah,
and
Amazon.
that measures and remind us what that measures.
Electronic magnetic field (EMF).
Okay. EMF. Okay.
Sam and Dean Winchester made their own. If you want to get that scientific.
Do you have headphones on when you're operating the condenser mic and the recorder?
I've done it sometimes. Typically, I don't, because if you've got the microphone on and you've got the earphones on, you're getting that feedback and you really can't tell what's going on. I've done it. I like to listen to it afterwards. Now, mind you, for every hour of audio that I collect, it's usually 2 to 3 hours of review. I'm listening to it.
So when I review. Are you missing out on part of the experience if you aren't listening until you go back later? Maybe there's something you don't audibly hear that you did hear later on the tape.
Yeah, it's possible. That's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
It's possible.
All right.
Typically, though, most of the time, nothing happens. I joke. Talking to yourself in the dark, How to Guide to the Paranormal. It's literally you're walking around talking to yourself. Some of the best evidence that I've ever captured, the I can't see EVP that we played earlier. I didn't know that happened until I got home. what a great EVP! Probably the clearest EVP I've ever captured.
Right.
So
Condenser
enjoy
mic,
it.
recorder, K2
Condenser
meter.
mic, K2 meter.
Anything else you'd put on the list?
If you want a camera, go ahead. You can take pictures, but flashes, I don't know if you're going to maybe you get lucky. I've taken thousands and thousands of photographs, and I maybe have gotten I got 3 here, maybe 6 or 7 more.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that for every hour of audio that you record, you say you only get about 1 or 2 minutes of something.
Of EVPs. Yeah. And for every hour, I will spend 2 to 3 hours of review listening to it. And this is how I usually do it. First time I listen to it, I take a notepad. I listen to it on the device itself. I put in earphones and I hit play on the recorder. And I write down, if I hear something, I write down the time. Then I upload that to the computer. Then I go and listen to those specific times to see if I can hear anything. Because with digital, sometimes those little zeros and X's and all that digital stuff gets lost when it's transferred. So
okay. Let me see here. Bear with me. Trying to see if there's anything else here. By the way, we have other audio clips. Is there anything else that you wanted to we gotta revisit here?
Let's play Tom's Here. Let's end this with Tom's Here. This is my favorite one. This is at Merker Cemetery. I pull up and you actually hear a ghost voice say, "Tom's here."
Okay, let's see here. Okay, so the voices that you hear are just like people waiting for you to arrive. You show up, and then we hear a voice in the background that says, "Tom's here," because you had been to this location multiple times as a ghost hunter, right? Leading tours. Okay.
But the one,
anyway,
she's having some vertigo problems.
Wow, listen to that.
But the one,
anyway,
she's having some vertigo problems.
And we know for a fact that was nobody that was there with you.
No, we actually.
But the one,
this is,
she's having.
The interesting thing about that too is we actually caught it on 2 separate devices. Very rarely do you capture an EVP on 2 separate devices. It's usually on one, not the other. So one is actually fainter, so it sounds like it's farther away. So it's kind of interesting.
Okay, so when you do these ghost tours and you go, on multiple occasions to the same place, are you encountering the same ghost multiple times? Like this? Tom's
I think so.
Here?
Yeah, I think so. And I think sometimes though I believed at the Baron Woolen Mill, which sadly has burnt to the ground, is no longer with us. Some stupid teenager broke in there and thought it would be fun to start a fire.
Okay, so hang on. When something like that happens and a location disappears, are the ghosts not hanging out? They're still at that spot. So let's just say you plow it and you plant daisies, and instead of a warehouse, it's 10 acres of daisies. Are the ghosts still there even though the structure isn't?
I think so. I think so. Another thing too is, have you ever been driving down a road and you've seen this building that just looks like if you breathe on it wrong, it's going to fall over, but for some reason it's still standing? I think that there may be something there trying to keep that together. Some sort of entity or energy that's holding it together, because we could talk an entire another show on that.
No, because I do have a question with that. So are you saying that in order for a building to remain standing in this theory that you just presented, and this entity is actually there helping, buttress the walls or whatever.
Yeah.
Does that mean, because you did say earlier, now I might be answering my own question as I ask this, Tom, you've talked about being physically assaulted, thrown down, had your legs knocked out from under you. So are we to believe then that these entities have that ability to physically affect structures and people?
I think they have the ability to manipulate the atoms and energy around things.
Are they learning this as the longer
the movie Ghost? The movie Ghost, great example of that. He's in the subway and he's trying to push the can with his energy.
Yep.
And it's taking everything he can, and then he gets better and better with it the longer they do it. The same with a kid. When they start walking, Bill Cosby jokes, You see a kid that's learning how to walk. He'll take like 5 or 6 steps and just stop and fall for no reason whatsoever, like he forgot what he was doing. Maybe ghosts are doing the same thing. Maybe they are slowly but gradually learning it throughout the centuries, learning how to communicate, learning how to do those things, learning how to manipulate those energies. We have no idea what time is to them.
Right.
We don't know if it's faster or if it's slower. I have a lot of belief that it's probably slower, that they may have only been dead for 5 minutes, where it's been 50, 60 years since they've passed. We don't know. We may never know until we cross over ourselves. I may cross over and God walks up to me and goes, Tom, we need to talk about your little ghost hunting thing. You know how crazy that is? Who knows?
Bro.
All in all, it comes right back down to, do you want to have fun? Do you want to enjoy yourself? Do you want to do you want to look at the history? Do you want to have an open mind? Go and do it. Experience it. Go. There are so many ghost tours now. My wife and I went down to a hotel in Arkansas for our anniversary, and they did ghost tours. We decided not to do it because I kind of checked it out, and there were like 50 or 60 people on this tour. I was like, that's not going to be a ghost tour. That's going to be me paying you $50 to follow you around telling me ghost stories. That's not what I want. I want to pay $50. I want you to leave me alone and let me go and do what I want to do. Ghost tours can be fun. That's why I say the private tours are a little bit better. And the TV shows have made it popular. I have issues with the TV shows because they're TV shows. They have to be entertaining. You're a producer. You know this. If a show isn't entertaining, doesn't get the ratings, what happens to the show? It goes away. So we have no idea what they are doing. So if you like the shows, watch the shows. I don't care. Zach Baggins, I don't care if you watch Ghost Adventurers or whatever. That's fine. If that's what you get off, great. I don't watch them because I tend to throw things at the TV because I get angry at the questions they're asking and the way they're doing it.
So let's leave it with this this thought right here.
Yeah.
If someone is watching this and they're like, you know what, I want to try this ghost hunting thing. I want to go out here and see this, and maybe they'll buy a recorder with a condenser microphone, a K2 meter, camera optional. What is a piece
and
of
that is
advice?
an artist rendering too.
That's right, artist
that
rendition of the checklist right there. It's not the actual checklist, just an artist rendition. That's a reference back to my day job at Pat Unleashed or on the Blaze.
Sorry.
Okay, so what is it that you would? What's one piece of advice? What is a tip? What is something that you would tell people as they're heading out into this new hobby?
It's a hobby. Have fun. Really. I mean,
have fun.
Don't take it too seriously. So many people, I've been on ghost hunts where people are just, and they get upset when nothing happens. And I'll tell them, that's possible. I have been to some of the most haunted locations in the United States. I went to the Winchester Mansion, spent the entire night there. Nothing happened. Not a single, got no EVPs, nothing moved, didn't see anything, nothing happened.
Frustrating, right?
Yeah, I still got to go wander through the Winchester Mansion late at night by myself. There was like 6 other people with us. And it's kind of a funny story. I got invited out to kind of like Tom Carr, the ghost hunter. This is what happened when he, because they're starting to do ghost tours there. And they did this tour, and I wandered off by myself while they were doing the tour. And I got lost because I don't know if you know, but the Winchester Mansion's all the doors and the stairwells that lead to nowhere.
And where is this located? I guess
it's in California. The wife of Winchester, the man who invented the Winchester rifle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She built this house, and she purposely built fake doors and stairwells because she thought she was being haunted by the ghosts that the guns that her husband made had killed. So she purposely tried to confuse them. So you could be walking up a flight of stairs, open the door, and it's a wall. I mean, so I wandered through that.
Is there evidence that the ghosts did get fooled?
I don't know. Okay. All I know is I wandered around all night long by myself and nothing happened. I finally got up with the group again at the end of the morning. They're like, "We thought you were dead." Like, Like, how could you go ghost hunting by yourself? I'm like, what do you mean? How can I go by myself? What?
Wow.
Anyway, so
What
yeah,
town is that in? I got to check this out. Winchester.
I can't. It's in California. I have to look it up.
Okay,
But,
I'll find it.
Google Winchester Mansion.
Yeah,
It's a
sure.
cool old house. I think they're doing ghost tours there now.
Okay.
And sadly, they didn't use me because I said this place ain't haunted. So
Oh
yeah, they didn't quote
no!
me. Yeah, they didn't quote me.
They call them like you
Oh,
see
yeah.
them. I appreciate that
Yeah.
a lot, man. Thank
Yeah,
you so
yeah.
much. Man,
Yeah.
I really
Hey, and
respect
just people that are on Twitter, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm actually going to start doing something on Twitter.
Good.
America's Haunted history, America's Haunted history. I'm going to start talking about some of the haunted locations throughout the United States. Maybe even go on some live ghost hunts. Post them on X
Okay.
and see how it goes. So
Yeah, be sure.
I've been
that,
diving back into the podcast thing again. I like doing it.
Oh, cool. Oh, good. Well, make sure that you keep me updated on that stuff, and I'll make sure that we can draw some more eyes to that. And be sure to follow Tom. And this has been a fascinating couple of hours, man. I appreciate your time on this. Follow him at TCarP. And his book is Talking to Yourself in the Dark. I want to check that out as well. Man,
Again,
is there... Huh?
It needs an editor really bad. And I probably need to update it a little bit. It's really small. It's really simple. You can get it for like $5, I think.
Cool.
I've sold like 200 copies. I have some store in Japan that like buys 5 copies every single year.
How cool is that, man?
Yeah. I'm going to go to
Tom
Japan someday.
Carr.
They're like, you're Tom Carr. You're Tom
Yeah,
Carr.
you're popular.
I know you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I enjoyed
Tom
it, Keith. Yeah,
Carr.
we'll have to do this again
Yeah.
sometime, man.
Absolutely,
and
man.
dive into some more. So
Awesome, man. Well, Tom Carr, thanks so much for making time. We appreciate you joining us here on At the Mic
Love the-
Deep Dive.
I love
All
the
right,
show.
check-
I love the idea. Keep it up.
Thanks, man. Check out his stuff, everybody. And we'll catch you guys next week at this time, 2 p.m. Eastern, next Thursday, where we talk about weather manipulation. But
I'm
before that,
interested in
don't
that
forget, tomorrow we got the Friday live stream with Tim Young. You can follow him on Twitter at Tim Runs His Mouth. Alex Spencer will also be here, so we look forward to joining us on that as well. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll catch you later.